I need everyone watching tonight to really throw on your thinking caps because we're going into a deep dive. Hopefully, I'm only on 3 hours of sleep tonight. Today, I lost track where we are. But if I can make it through the show, we're going to go have a deep dive and talk about some things, particularly where where it really matters the most. We are at a pivotal turning point in America where we can go in one of three directions. We can stay the course, which is comfortable for some Americans, which is very successful for some Americans. The status quo is not the worst thing in the world. The status quo is not terrible. It does produce the best of times and the worst of times, but it's the status quo. And it's better to have the devil you know than the devil you know going to take you further into hell, which is another choice. We can go further into this economic paradigm, this socio-economic paradigm, this cultural paradigm. We can go further into this neoliberal paradigm where we sacrifice labor at the expense of capital with no protections from the global forces. I'll unpack that. We can go further, which is really the vision. It's the wet dream of the Republican Party. They are fascinated and thoroughly satisfied with capitalism as we play it in America as it is. They want to go further. So we can stay on the status quo track where we are swerving back and forth, swaying back and forth on this enormous ship called the American economy, where we vacillate back and forth in between, 3%, maybe 5% tax rate changes. But for the most part, we're heading in the same direction that we've been heading in since 1981 Ross Kemp tax cuts. Or we can let a Republican get into office. And normally I tell you that there's very little difference between economic policies from Republicans and Democrats. I would argue that in many, many, many cases, but this new breed of conservative, they're a little different. They want to go even further. Or we can say enough is enough, and we are not satisfied with the status quo, and we sure as hell are not going to let us go even further down this neoliberal pipe dream that formerly was known as the American dream that now has come to bite us all in the rear end. We can say enough is enough, and we want to reverse course and do more things for the middle class, to protect the middle class and to grow the middle class. And in this strange way, it's almost as though someone like Bernie Sanders is the real conservative in this race, because he's hearkening back to a time in America when we focused on how do we move people out of poverty into the middle class and grow the middle class. We have three routes in front of us, and it's demonstrated by our choices: a Bernie Sanders, a Hillary Clinton, who is a status quo, and any Republican. I don't care if you go from John Kasich up to Donald Trump. They all want more of this current economic paradigm, and they don't mind ushering in this current economic paradigm with nationalism, xenophobia, homophobia, just straight out racism and white supremacy. They don't mind, because they've been doing it all this time. Why the hell would they change course now with their methodology? And uniquely interesting enough, Ta-Nehisi Coates' article really is a timely piece. Perhaps not for the reasons he thought, but it's a very timely piece because it forces us to have a conversation on the economic condition of African Americans, the economic conditions of poor people in America, how race plays into it, how race is a factor in this campaign season, and where we go from here. So his piece is very, very timely in that regard.